All right, let's talk about a report. I think it was Matthew Berry from ESPN said it's 100% no way that the Lions draft Tua Tagovailoa. Let's talk about it, man. We back. Mercy Sports Talk. Appreciate everybody for checking in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Best way to donate for me is share the video. But hey, if you want to make a donation, Cash App, username, and PayPal link is in the description. But yeah, he said 20 things we learned from the combine. I'll link the article link in the description. Just hit the drop down box to touch the title. The description will fall up with all my social media there too. If you need to follow me on social media, you need to email me or whatever. But said that he 100% convinced the Lions won't draft Tua, and I think you, him, her, and me already knew that. The Lions are not going to ever move on from Matthew Stafford until Stafford is ready to retire, or he puts his hoof down and says he wants to leave. And I don't see neither one of those happening. So Stafford is going to get retired, or he's going to retire a Lion. So if it's injury, he get retired, or he willingly retires. So it's a thing around Detroit where people think Stafford is going to play forever, and they just don't want to replace Stafford. And like I said before in my other live stream yesterday, think about people about Stafford. People think Stafford is not the problem. You know, even everything has changed around Stafford 3 or 4 times over. And the one thing that still remains is the Lions lose, the Fords, and Stafford is still the quarterback. But, that is what it is. I knew they weren't drafting Tua. It was no way. It was talks about them possibly wanting to take Kyler Murray last year. I don't think Bob Quinn can draft another quarterback. I think he was forced to keep Jim Bob Cooter one more year than he wanted to keep him. All right? And that's just my opinion. I knew they weren't drafting Tua. Even if they had Tua rated as the highest rated prospect on their board, Martha wouldn't go let them. Even though Tua needs to sit a year, they never put any pressure on Matthew Stafford. Only pressure they had was Sean Hill. And we knew Sean Hill wasn't going to take over full time. So it's never been pressure on Matthew Stafford from the Fords. You know what I'm saying? It's just never been that way. And we know that they're not gonna draft Tua. Tua said he don't pretty much, it was a rumor said he don't want to be in Detroit. And, I feel him. Why would you want to be in an organization who can't put building blocks around you? And one of the reasons he said he didn't want to come to Detroit because he didn't want to have to get familiar with a new coaching staff all over again, and that he believed that the Lions coaching staff was going to be rebuilt again, and he didn't believe Patricia was going to be there long term. I know Patricia going to be here at least one more year amongst this season. Martha not paying nobody 2 years to sit at home, so unless Bob fire him. And she let Bob stay for the rest of his duration. But, I think that's something we already knew. We knew, even if the rumors out there, they trying to do these smoke screens with Kelly Stafford, or they trying to do some smoke screens with, they want the Lions, Matthew want to leave, the Lions don't want to Matthew and all this. Nobody believe in that. At 3, it's going to be hard for somebody to trade up, unless they believe Miami Dolphins, unless somebody other than the Dolphins want Tua. Miami would be fools to trade up to 4. Unless they fear somebody else might trade up with Detroit. Because Detroit is never moving on from Matthew Stafford. And it's sad, though. It's sad because, obviously, he had 2 back injuries. They won't draft a respectable prospect behind him. People say, he played so well last year. We still had a losing record. You know what I'm saying? They still didn't put up no points like they were supposed to on the Arizona Cardinals. Well, they haven't put an offensive line around. They haven't put a running game. It ain't going to happen. So that means you got to find somebody like Lamar Jackson that can amplify your run game. That's just what it means. You got to find somebody like Lamar, that can run and open hole and open, create opportunities, open opportunities up for the running back. But, people they just don't see it with Stafford. They don't see him. They just believe he ain't the problem. And I'm not saying he the entire problem, but shit, when you've been losing for 11 straight years, you ain't done shit. Come on, eventually you got to move on, right? But the Lions refuse to, and it's not because Stafford is great or they believe Stafford is good. It's because they like him. He a good old boy. Martha love him. Now, if Matthew go in there and say, I don't want to play for Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, that's a good way you can get him fired. But, that is what it is. But I knew they wasn't going to take Tua or Burrows or Herbert or Eason or Love or nobody like that. They gonna go into next year with Driscoll and Blog probably behind Matthew Stafford. And like I said before, They just don't believe. They don't. I mean, that's the perfect situation for Tua to sit a year. You can trade Stafford next year. You know, it'll be cheaper to trade him in the cap hit. Tua sit behind him this year, build his strength up, come in next year. Perfect situation. Herbert, Love, Eason, or even some people like Jalen Hurts. I'm not high on him. You know what I'm saying? Had him sit behind Stafford for a year and then move on from Stafford. You know, same shit with Scott Mitchell. When they had a good quarterback with Eric Kramer, he was a good quarterback. They just got rid of him and they brought in Scott Mitchell. Trash as hell. You know what I'm saying? So this organization just stupid, man. They just don't. You know what I'm saying? You imagine in New England, you know, Tom Brady ain't hacking it for 11 straight years. You think Bill Belichick not going to move on? Come on, man. This dude ain't won a playoff game. At least McNabb made it to the NFC Championship game like 3 years in a row in the Super Bowl. You know, Tim Tebow got a playoff win. You know what I'm saying? Can you believe Andy Dalton they moving on from Andy Dalton before the Lions moving on from Stafford? Can you believe my homeboy got a Super Bowl before Stafford? Deshaun Watson got a playoff win before Stafford. Let this just sink in for a minute. Phillip Rivers gone from the Chargers before Stafford. Jared Goff got more playoff wins than Stafford. Nick Foles got more playoff wins than Stafford. Look at his win percentage versus a team's above 500. Ain't no mystery. Don't forget the Kansas City Chiefs game last year. He lost that motherfucker. Didn't he fumble or some shit? You know, it's been talks about him not even being able to read defenses. Remember Joe Lombardi was on the way out and called him stupid? Oh, Stafford is really, really good, man. You look at the film and look at him go through progression. He throwing in double coverage and he throwing picks and the Raider game last year. They steam. He turned the ball over down the field. 49er game a couple years ago. What was it last year? A couple years, I can't remember we played. A couple years ago, I think it was. Garoppolo, I think, still was healthy. And, you know, soon we was getting blew out, but as soon as we came back and they had an opportunity to win the game, this motherfucker started throwing the ball in the dirt. Overthrowing people. So, people say, oh, Stafford, man, I seen this dude accuracy is erratic as hell. You don't know what you're going to get from Matthew Stafford. Sometimes he throw a frozen rope. Sometimes he throw into double coverage. Sometimes, like I said before, people acting like this dude ain't the problem. Who else, other than the Fords, who is the problem? This dude ain't no elite quarterback, man. He might be top 15. I would take 15 quarterbacks over him. And maybe that is your problem. You know, maybe he is your problem, man. I'd definitely, man, take a quarterback at 3 if I could. If I believe Tua or Burrows was there or somebody, and they talking about Tua would have been the number 1 pick this year had he stayed healthy. Let that sink in for a minute. They saying he could be a generational quarterback. Imagine Tua go to Miami, he changed life around Miami. You also imagine he go to Miami and tear his leg up again, his hip up again. You know, and you passed up on him and you take fucking somebody else. You're going to be looking stupid. And Bob Quinn track history tell you what? His track history tell you that he going to trade back. He trade back and get extra picks and don't do shit with the extra picks. That's what his draft history tell you. You know, but like I said, they replace any individual on this team, they replace him. Only guy that was hard, they refused to let go was Tease Tabor. That Stafford, that's the only guy I seen them struggle with. But Matt, this narrative that Stafford ain't the problem and he perfect or he good. If he was good enough, that motherfucker, good enough players with Calvin Johnson, man, they would have won the playoff game. With that defense they had versus Dallas, and he had Calvin Johnson, a good enough quarterback win that game. A good enough quarterback don't panic and throw it to Pettigrew, a guy who went in 1 year in Tennessee, somebody took the ball away from him and went the other way. I think he scored a touchdown. You know, good enough quarterbacks win games like that. He ain't good enough. And I ain't scared to say it. I don't care what none of these dudes say on here. He ain't good enough. People will talk about you see what Stafford did against the Bengals, or you see what Stafford did against Arizona. But then as soon as Kansas City come around, he get to throwing picks and stuff. Ain't nobody got nothing to say, man. But hey, it is what it is, man. Motor City Sports Talk. Appreciate the love, support. Don't forget we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out to the email if you got business, question, inquiry, sponsorship, video requests. Keep sharing the videos. One time for the one time. It's your boy CJ Goodfella. Don't forget to check my other channel out. Everything sports, music, entertainment. Goodfella Sports TV. We gone.